Jon Cruddas, who would talk about young people's issues in London. Jon, I wonder if you could ask, you talked about hope and vision in your speech. What are your personal hopes and visions for young people in London?
Well, I hope they get involved in the political process. My real fear is what we've seen over the last couple of years with the financial crisis, is that it will be young people who have to pick up the bill through having to work longer, having to pay more to get into college, experiencing more unemployment. And I think if they get involved now, they can try and shape the future because it's going to land on their lap.
Today we talked a lot about marches and protests. Are there other ways that young people can get their opinions heard in a more direct fashion?
Absolutely. If you're in a school, get your school, if you've got a school council or your class, get your teacher to write to your MP, invite them in, right, and say, look, we want to talk to you, we want to hear what you've got to say about these issues that affect our lives, not just in terms of our own borough or our own road, but also internationally, in terms of aid, development, world poverty, the environment, inequality. It's all about democracy. It's about you owning the democratic process rather than handing it over and swerving around the process to make sure that people who might not necessarily have your interests at heart make decisions that affect you.
We talked a lot about international development and things happening overseas. What do you believe is the most key issue affecting young people in the UK at the moment?
Locally, we test it out in terms of a youth survey in our area, and it's issues of crime in our local borough. And there's always this assumption that young people care about different things to other groups in the community. I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I mean, when we talk to people locally, crime issues dominate all generational groups. So that's the big thing. And then it's basic issues like safety in the community, what the community looks like, antisocial behaviour, if people are fly tipping, dropping three-piece seats in their front garden, the basic issues that will brighten up the community and also people feel safer in their communities as well. I think it's what everyone wants.
I'm Einy from Right Here, Right Now. In your speech you said that people are voting less because of the complacent nature towards politics. Would you agree that in the recent light of the expenses scandal, this confirmed their view?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it poisons the well, doesn't it? I mean, it reinforces the sense that everyone's at it, they're all in it for their own gains, financial gains. The MP I know come in it for the right reason. You might disagree with them. They didn't come in it to make money. And I would just resist that cynical view that it's not worth getting involved. Like if you've got an MP that you don't think is done right, get him into your school, get him into your area and say we want to hear what you got, how you can account for your behaviour.
In terms of getting young people involved in politics, Ed Balls proposed to cut the education budget. But do you think that we should cut in inefficiency in schools?
Well, I think there's one thing you can't cut, it's the education budget, because you're investing in the future of the country and the future of young people as well, especially in the poorest communities that have got the longest legacy of people not getting involved in the education system. So I think the last thing that we should be cutting is education.
So do you think you are going against your party's policy?
Yeah, not the first time either. I think we should be investing in our young people rather than cutting our investment in them because the bankers got it wrong. I think we should be going after the bankers rather than the youth.
Every child is getting born with golden brown Zeb is to do with the fundamental mistakes of the Labour Party.
There have been fundamental mistakes. We thought economically that the economy would just keep growing. It grew for 15 years, but then it stopped in September 2008 and hasn't started again. We're in recession. All of the political parties thought that they'd cracked it. They knew how the economy worked, and there was no more boom and bust. We're going to have to get used to the fact that we're going to live in more austere, difficult times. And the key question is who takes responsibility for it and who pays for the cost of getting this system right again. And that's why I started off with referring to a conversation I had with one of our schools, and all of the kids were saying, oh, we're not interested in politics, and the teachers were saying the kids aren't interested in politics. But once you start talking about how you're going to have to work longer because the bankers screwed it up, then they start to get interested in politics. I don't think they're not interested in politics, it's just the type of politics we have doesn't interest people.
Hi, I'm Nicole Right Here, Right Now, youth reporter. I'd just like to ask you a few questions about Dagenham. It's known that it's fairly working class and they somewhat favour the BNP. Now, do you think that's the favour of the BNP is due to failures in the Labour government? And if so, how do you intend to win back younger voters?
You've got to win back people's trust, really. I mean, in our area, we have a lot of people supporting the BNP, but they've got a lot of people who are frustrated about the government. They feel vulnerable, they want answers, and they want politicians to address some of the issues that aren't talked about. The government has fallen off the agenda of the government. We've got to get back on. So it's a cry for help. And it's not just about people, we having more Nazis than other people. We don't. But we have a lot of vulnerable, frustrated people who want change and are not getting it. And that's what we've got to do, provide that change.